Yusuf Dodia, the chairperson of the Private Sector Development Association for Zambia, joins us now on the line. We're going to be taking a look at the economic picture right now, what's taking place in Zambia and what's top of investors' minds at the moment. Yusuf, good to have you with us on Open Exchange today. I know that you've been very much involved in the private sector development reform programs with government, and of course these have been key in order to make government a lot more responsive to the private sector. So tell us a little bit more about these. Tell us about the roadmap that is being put in place and the timeline for the rollout of that.
Thank you very much. Zambia recognizes that the civil service has had challenges in being able to provide service to the public and to the private sector in respect to economic and social development. And so the private sector development reform program was designed to be across all government ministries to just uplift the quality of service provided to the population. And in this respect, this program runs for another 2 years, that is 2012 up to 2014. And in this period, we have decided to actually develop a roadmap that would be marked with specific events, with specific goals, and specific benchmarks for monitoring and evaluation of the progress of this program. So the roadmap really looks at how we can ensure that government ministries are responsive to the needs of the people. From an economic perspective, this means a lot of the government units that are focusing on private sector development and also the statutory bodies, for example, the Bureau of Standards and other regulation boards that actually have an impact on private sector development in the country. It's a 2-year roadmap, and what we hope to see is that within the 24 months, we will try as much as possible to transform the government to really be a support for the private sector. And this is really what the goal is for the next 2 years.
Of course, this is very much needed because looking at foreign direct inflows into Zambia specifically, up by 93% last year. Zambia was the top destination for FDI. A lot of interest in the mining sector, of course, as always. Is there starting to be a sense that the economy is diversifying quickly enough away from its reliance on mining, or is this very much still at the heart of the economy?
Well, mining is still very much the heart of the economy. 80% of Zambia's exports are in the area of copper exports. But what has happened in the last year or so is there's been a raging debate about windfall taxes. Windfall taxes were introduced a couple of years ago and then dropped again after a year or two of running. So there is a huge cry from the population that the mining industry is doing prolific business, but this business is not translating into economic development across the country. So right now, the focus is really on looking at the $8.4 billion worth of exports that we experienced in 2011 in the mining industry to find a way of how we can transform that into diversification and financing for the broadening of the economy of Zambia.
So basically, are you saying, Yusuf, that they say that the regime is too liberalized at the moment?
The regime is very liberalized, and the challenge is that $8.4 billion that is exported does not come back into the country in the form of export remittances. And I think this is a raging debate going on now that this needs to be put in place as a regulation, as a foreign exchange and business regulation for the purposes of tax accountability and also basically just to fuel the economy, because that works out at about $70 million a day if we made a float of 3 days of remittances coming into Zambia.